Hey guys, I'm happy to be back from my trip to Normandy and the Jersey Island. I now have some guns that I want to show you, so stay tuned. Okay, I've got some guns to show you, but before I do that, let me give you a real quick overview of my trip, because many of you are asking, how did it go? Well, first and foremost, the trip exceeded all of my expectations. There are a few things that surprised me. First and foremost, we had more females than males. Now, when I first signed up with High Road Travelers to take this trip and invite a lot of you to come along with us, many of the guys said, oh, I'd love to go, but my wife just wouldn't enjoy going to all these battlefields. Well, first and foremost, we had mostly women, and they had their way with us. Meaning we did a lot of battlefield museums, but we also went to a lot of shops and villages and some beautiful places and great food. The second surprise was how young the group was. We even had a 14-year-old girl who had an absolute wonderful time. She was a delight. She absorbed everything we did, enjoyed it, probably learned more than all of us put together. It was just a great group. I thought it was just going to be a bunch of smelly old men, and as it turns out, I was the only smelly old man there. But enough of that, let's talk about some guns. So I chose some navies. This is a Navy hat. That's just a background, Nazi Navy officer's cap. That's background. The reason I picked these is while we were on the trip, one of the participants was Mike. And I said to Mike, hey, when I get back, what are some guns you would like to see? And he said, I love the Navy guns from the Nazi era. So I said, you got it. And so these came in, or I pulled them from our inventory just to do this video. We're going to go time-wise. We're going to start with this one. This is a Navy Weimar era. Weimar is between the wars, so World War I era. At the end of World War I, they turned in their guns. A lot of them were destroyed. But before World War II started, they did find that they needed to arm the police, the Navy in particular, and so they did make a few guns for the Weimar era, and they were allowed to do 32 caliber. They were not supposed to do 9mm. Not sure why that made a difference, but this is a very rare gun because it's not from the Nazi era where they really ramped up armaments. So instead of making maybe a couple thousand, they were making tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. This is from 1933. So Hitler came to power at the end of 1933, consolidated power in 34. You'll notice it's not a swastika, but the M anchor is the symbol during the Weimar era of a Navy pistol. This pistol is a model 1914. Now, many of you, when you see this, you're probably thinking more of the 1934, because this is the gun you see more often. You notice the hump back here where it goes in the palm of your hand. This has more of a straight edge versus the hump in the back. This is a 1914 in 32 caliber. This is a 1934 in 32 caliber. Both of them are Navy. I'll show you the difference in the markings. On this one, you'll see it's N property marked. So N is North Sea, and then just the rack number. And you also see the M and the anchor. So a very rare gun just because they made very few. And I probably see 10 or more of the Nazi Navy guns as opposed to the Weimar era gun. So a very, very rare gun. Not for everybody, but for the high-end collector. This is a really nice rig. You can see the markings, the M anchor markings. And it does have the spare magazine to go with it, so it makes it a complete rig. So from 1933, we go up to the Nazi era, and the way we know it is the Nazi era. This is a model 1934. Not made in 1934, but a patent date of 1934. But you see the swastika in it. And the Navy didn't really start using the swastika until the 30s, the late 30s. So M for Marine, and by the way, over here, M for Marine. In German, Marine is Navy. In the United States, M means Marine, which is a different kind of corps, but M in Germany is the Navy. So you can see the closed wing. I think I have an open wing I can show you. This is a closed wing Nazi marking. There you go. Ask and you shall find. That is the open wing, because you can see it's a straight line with opened at the end, and then the swastika underneath the eagle and the M. This is just a variant of the same similar marking. They actually did the open wing first, and then they did the closed wing. They were used alternately at the different arsenals, so they just used one and then the other. It was more open wing in the beginning, and then they did a little bit of both. So bottom line is there's the closed wing, and you can see the difference. Now, the other thing about the Nazi era, they also use the N property mark and the O property mark, but it's on the front strap. N, again, is North Sea. O is Ostsee, or East Sea. And that is up in the Baltic area, so at the top of Germany, where they would go out, the submarines would go out, the ships would go out through the north or through the Baltic. So the East Sea and the North Sea, they have the N property mark here. And the ultimate would be to have a matching magazine. We see here it is 3324, and we have N property mark 3324. The little X underneath means it's the second mag. So there was one mag without the X, and then the X, which is extra. That's in German or in English, extra. So this has a matching magazine. So again, pretty rare gun. That came in this holster, which is Navy marked. Right here. It's hard to see, faint stamp, but it is the same eagle, stick-wing eagle over a swastika and an M for Marine. So that's the typical Navy style holster. You see the same thing here, Navy style holster. I don't see the Navy marking on this one, but it is the Navy style holster. Notice the beautiful high polished finish. 600,000 range, which is a little bit later, probably closer to 1940. We'll put this one away, and this one I began to show you, but I wanted to finish up because this one has the stick wing and the N property mark. It has the matching magazine. It also has the name of an officer, kind of cool. It says Hans Vach, and I don't know the rest, Wagner, but Oberlieutenant, so that's, I don't know if that's a first or second lieutenant, but that's an officer, lieutenant, Oberlieutenant, and this one came with this pistol. So this is a nice pistol. I believe this one is already sold. I think we had somebody last night who picked this one up. So this might already be gone. The prices on most of these, the guns alone sell for about $3,000, and the holsters, if they're Navy marked, the holsters that are Navy marked can easily be $700-800. So you're talking about a pretty big investment, but these things have just been going up in price since I've started collecting them. I was paying in the $2,200 range, and then $2,500, and then they went to $3,000, and soon they'll be $3,500. Prices just keep going up. They're a good investment. Now, after the 1934 model, Mauser, by the way, the design was a little awkward. There's a couple of reasons I could go into detail, but the design on this was a little bit outdated. They wanted something a little sleeker looking because they're now competing with the PPK, which obviously looks a lot sleeker than this. So Mauser, pretty smart company, pretty large armaments company, they came out with the new design of the HSC. So this is the Mauser HSC. Look at the beautiful grips on that, back strap and the front strap. And on the front strap, that's where you'll see the Navy marking. So no longer on the slide like on the 1934, but right here is the Navy marking, which is the closed wing eagle, swastika, M. There's a second Navy marking right here, which you're not going to be able to see, but here's one here, comes from Jan Still's book, but that's what this marking is, hard to see. So this is double Navy marked here and here. So that makes this an interesting variation. Beautiful gun, and it's also going to be in the 3,000 range. Before I left for Europe, this came in. I didn't get a chance to describe it or list it, but this is an interesting gun because it is dated 1918. It's called a double date or a reworked. The double date is the 1920 is a rework mark, not necessarily done in 1920, but after the war was over, 1918, they took a lot of the guns that were issued or unissued, anything that was damaged or worn or no longer usable was destroyed. But any guns that they could rework, they would send it to an arsenal for reworking. This one was actually a 1918 artillery. The reason I can tell it's an artillery, it has this notch right here, which the elevated sight, you know, on the artillery it has an elevated sight. You could move up and down for meters. It has that little notch for the elevated sight. You'll see here, no cutout, no notch for the elevated sight. Here, a notch for an elevated sight. So I know this was formerly a 1918 artillery. It was made for the military. Those are imperial military proofs. But when the war ended, maybe this was never actually used. The war ended. They sent it to be reworked. That's when it was stamped 1920, put in inventory, and then reworked at some time. Now, when was it reworked and turned into a Navy? Well, it would have gone to the Navy arsenal, but this marking right here, that's what I call the funky chicken, but everybody else calls it an Eagle M with an N property mark. Now, it looks familiar because I've seen that before, and I think this marking and this rework was done in about 1934, 1935, because this, which I'm not selling, this comes from my collection, this is a G-date Luger, which means it came from 1935. So the G-date Luger, you see the G right there on the receiver. G-date Luger went to the military. You can see the proof marks right here. Notice how beautiful this finish is. And it has that same funky chicken, which is unique to 1935. So because of the property mark and the way the chicken, the eagle, excuse me, please forgive me for describing it that way, but it doesn't look like an eagle to me. It's very similar to this marking. So I believe this was from 1918, artillery Luger, put aside in an arsenal to be reworked, finally reworked for the Navy, and they added the Navy insignia. Then you also see it has a World War II style magazine. It's a pretty rare gun, made by DWM, but sent to the North Sea Navy in time for World War II. So this went up there probably around 1935 and was used during World War II. This one is going back in the safe, beautiful G-date Navy, and it also has a Navy marked magazine. That's how the magazines would be marked. N with the property mark, and you see the X on the end. Again, that's the spare magazine. Okay, I have one more Navy rig, and this one is from 1938. We see a holster marked 1939. We see the Waffen proof, meaning it was approved for the military. And there is that symbol again, the Navy stamp. So you have a stick wing eagle over a swastika, over an M for Marine. We already know that's a Navy marking. So this holster was issued to the Navy, 1939. It has a tool, it has the Luger, and a spare magazine. There's the Luger, 1938. It was made by Mauser. Remember, that's the same people who made the 1934, the HSC, but this is a little bigger caliber. They were not allowed to make 9mm military guns, but of course when Hitler came to power, he said, the heck with you, Treaty of Versailles, we're going to do whatever we want. So he started making them for the military. This is the code for the Mauser factory. These are military markings, just like we saw on the other Lugers. Military markings. In this case, it's an Eagle 63, and we can see the Navy marking on the back strap, N property mark, and there's the rack number. We can also see the N property mark serial number on the magazine, non-matching by the way, but it is a Navy magazine, and an additional spare Navy magazine. So this time you see the N at the top. This is actually to an earlier gun. Let me see. Yeah, this is probably from about 1935, 1936. So the N is here as opposed to N here. So these are two Navy magazines and a Navy pistol. The condition of this gun is absolutely beautiful. It's about 98%. Mirror bore, look at that front strap, just a beautiful gun. And the back strap with the Navy marking. So this is what a Nazi Navy Luger would look like. In the past, people have written to me and said, that's not a Navy Luger. The Navy Luger's had a 6-inch barrel and it has the crown M right here. That's true for World War I. However, in World War II, this is the way they looked during World War II. So this is a Navy Luger from 1938. or 1939 with the holster to go with it. Okay, I'm going to close out with 2 PPKs. No, there's no special marking. If a PPK or PP went to the Navy, we have no way of knowing that. The records were destroyed. It probably happened, but it probably was a private purchase, meaning an officer could buy a PP or PPK and carry it as a sidearm. That was done all the time. But there are no specially marked or serial ranges for Navy PPs or PPKs. However, these are 2 SS PPKs, and since they're so hard to find, and whenever I get them in, I like to show them to you guys because that's what I specialize in, and you love to see them. So here's 2 variations of SS guns. This variation is the K under. Now, as you know, well, here's a picture of a typical serial number. The K is always after the serial number. The K under variation is aptly named because the K is under the serial number, and it only happens with the SS contract. They also have a P under, which is even more rare. So this is the K under variation, and it brings a premium. It also comes with a K under magazine. It's not matching, but it is close. You can see it's a few hundred numbers off, but it's a K under magazine with a K under PPK. The grip is very nice. The condition is very good. It's high polish finish, covers, most of the gun is completely covered with this high polished blue. However, there's a little bit of pin pricking in the finish, which just means it wasn't wiped down when it got little moisture on it and probably wasn't wiped down and cared for properly. But I'd say this is in excellent condition and would be a fine addition to anybody's collection, especially if they want an SS variation. The next one is late war, and technically I can't say for sure it went to the SS. It is in a serial range. If you go to my book and you look in the serial range, there are right before and right after this one, there's SS contract guns. This falls right into that range. However, it doesn't have a matching mag. So technically, without a matching mag, you can't say 100% for sure, because the only thing that proves that it went to the SS is the numbered magazine. The SS did require that they get a numbered magazine. This one, again, it's close. You can see the numbered magazine. And you can see here, it's all made of steel, not Doral. It's late war, 1944. This one, by the way, was probably about 1938, so much earlier, high polish finish versus the duller finish from 1944. So 2 SS guns that came in this week. Look at the front straps. You can see dull versus high polish finish. This is just an incredible beauty. This one, can't say 100%, but I believe that's an SS contract late war PPK. Many of these guns will be available on our website, but some of them are going to sell really quickly. Now stay tuned, because I do have some video from some of the museums and castles and the special places we went on our trip. So you might want to make sure you like and subscribe to our channel so you can see the follow-up.